Sometimes life pulls you away from the crowd, isolates you, and makes you question everything. Let me tell you this, when you're alone, it's not a punishment, it's preparation. God doesn't isolate you to break you. He isolates you to build you. When God separates you from certain people or situations, it's not because he's punishing you. It's because he's got a plan you can't see yet. Sometimes you're holding on to folks who can't go where you're going. God knows their intentions, their heart, and their limitations. He sees what you cannot. And his decision to remove them is an act of protection, not rejection. You may feel hurt, betrayed, or confused, but remember, God knows what's best for you. You might be asking why certain relationships fell apart, or why doors that seemed perfect suddenly closed. That's God's way of saying this isn't for you. Not anymore. He's redirecting your steps towards something far greater, something aligned with his purpose for your life. The people you're clinging to might be the very ones pulling you down. Not everyone in your life wants to see you win. Some folks are in your circle, but not in your corner. They smile on your face, but pray for your downfall behind your back. God sees all of this and removes them before they can sabotage your blessings. Think about how heavy your life feels when you're surrounded by the wrong people. Their negativity drains you, their drama consumes you, and their lack of vision holds you back. God knows you're destined for more, so he cuts the ties you're too afraid to sever yourself. It's his way of lightening your load and setting you free. Isolation isn't about loneliness, it's about clarity. When you're surrounded by the wrong crowd, it's hard to hear God's voice. He pulls you aside so you can focus on him, not on the opinions or noise of others. It's in that quiet space that he begins to reveal what's next for your life. Let's be real, letting go is hard. You'll feel the weight of loss, but trust that it's temporary. Every person God removes is a step closer to the ones he's bringing into your life. Those who left weren't meant to stay. Their chapter in your story is over, and it's time to move forward without them. When God isolates you, he's setting you apart for something bigger. He's removing the unnecessary to make room for the extraordinary. It's his way of saying, I've got better for you. And when he does, you'll look back and thank him for every closed door, every ended relationship, and every moment of solitude. When life is loud, God's voice becomes a whisper. You can't hear him when you're surrounded by distractions, noise, and opinions. That's why he places you in moments of silence. It's not to leave you alone, but to draw you closer to him. In that silence, you'll find clarity, direction, and peace. Silence can be uncomfortable because it forces you to confront yourself. You begin to reflect on your choices, your mindset, and your path. God uses this time to strip away the external influences so you can finally hear what he's been trying to tell you all along. His wisdom is often hidden in the quiet moments you try to avoid. When God speaks, it's never to confuse or mislead you. His voice brings peace, not chaos. But to recognize his voice, you need to create space for him. The silence isn't a void, it's a divine appointment. It's where he pours into you the strength and guidance you need for the journey ahead. Think of silence as preparation, just as a seed is planted in the dark soil before it grows. You too need time in the quiet to grow. In that silence, God waters your spirit with encouragement, disciplines your heart with patience, and shapes your vision with his plans. This process cannot be rushed or skipped. Sometimes the silence feels heavy because you've been so used to the noise of the world. Social media conversations and daily busyness drown out the stillness. But God wants you to unplug, to disconnect from the chaos so you can connect deeply with him. Silence isn't emptiness, it's fullness when it comes from God. In the quiet, you'll notice things you've been ignoring, dreams that have been buried, ideas that have been shelved, and lessons that have been overlooked. God uses this time to awaken your potential. He shows you the possibilities that exist when you lean fully on him, not on your standing. Silence doesn't mean inactivity. It's the most productive time of your spiritual life. When you're silent before God, you're allowing him to work in you and through you. It's where transformation begins. Don't fear the silence. Embrace it, because it's where God speaks his loudest truths. Being alone forces you to look inward. Without distractions, you begin to face parts of yourself you've been avoiding. God uses this time to show you who you truly are, not who you've been pretending to be or who others have labeled you as. Alone time is the mirror you can't avoid. Self-awareness isn't always comfortable. You'll start to see the patterns, behaviors, and decisions that have held you back. It's humbling, but it's also liberating. God reveals these things not to shame you, but to free you. You can't grow until you know what's been keeping you stagnant. When you're alone, you begin to discover your strengths and weaknesses. You learn what motivates you, what drews you, and what inspires you. This understanding is the foundation of growth. God wants you to see yourself clearly so you can step boldly into the purpose he's designed for you. Self-awareness also helps you set boundaries. When you know your worth, you stop settling for less. God uses alone time to remind you of the value he's placed within you. You stop looking for validation from others because you find your confidence in him. Alone time is when you reconnect with your dreams. Life has a way of burying your passions under responsibilities and expectations. In solitude, God rains those dreams and gives you the courage to pursue them. He reminds you of the unique calling he's placed on your life. Self-awareness isn't just about looking inward, it's also about looking upward. You start to see how God has been working in your life all along, even in the moments you felt lost. He shows you the bigger picture and how every step has been part of his divine plan. The more self-aware you become, the stronger your relationship with God grows. You realize that your identity isn't found in what you do or who you know, it's found in him. Alone time transforms you from the inside out, preparing you for the next chapter of your life. When you're alone, you realize just how strong you are. It's easy to rely on others for support, validation, or direction, but solitude forces you to tap into your inner reserves. God allows this season to show you that you're more resilient than you ever thought possible. Strength isn't built in comfort, it's built in challenges. At first, being alone might feel like a weakness. You might question your ability to handle life's demands without a support system. But that's the moment God steps in and reminds you that he's all you need. He doesn't want you to depend on the world. He wants you to depend on him. That's where true strength comes from. Solitude strips away the crutches you've been leaning on, friends who pacify you, habits that distract you, and routines that keep you stuck. It forces you to stand on your own 2 feet and discover the power God has already placed inside of you. That strength has been there all along. You just needed the space to find it. The world will try to convince you that being alone is a sign of failure, but God knows better. He uses solitude to sharpen your character and refine your faith. In the absence of others, you become more aware of his presence. He turns your loneliness into a sanctuary. His strength becomes your own. Each day spent in solitude is a day of growth. You start to see that you're capable of handling situations you once thought would break you. God gives you the endurance to push through, the wisdom to navigate challenges, and the courage to face your fears head on. Strength isn't given, it's developed. Solitude also teaches you how to protect your energy. When you're constantly surrounded by others, you're often drained by their needs and expectations. Being alone helps you prioritize your well-being and recognize the importance of saying no to what doesn't serve your purpose. God uses this time to make you stronger, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. When you emerge from this season of solitude, you'll be unshakable. The strength you've gained will carry you through life's storms. You'll no longer need others to validate you or prop you up because you've discovered a strength that comes from within and ultimately from God. In the business of life, it's easy to neglect your relationship with God. Being alone allows you to reconnect with him on a deeper level. It's in those quiet moments that you begin to feel his presence more clearly and hear his voice more distinctly. God uses solitude to draw you closer to him. When you're alone, there's no one else to turn to but God. That's when you truly understand what it means to rely on him. You stop looking for answers from the world and start seeking them from the one who holds your future. This dependence strengthens your faith and deepens your trust in his plan. Solitude allows you to pray without distractions. It's not about saying the perfect words, but about opening your heart to God. You begin to pour out your fears, your dreams, and your doubts, knowing that he listens and understands. Prayer becomes less of a ritual and more of a conversation and connection. As you spend more time with God, you start to see his hand in every aspect of your life. You recognize the blessings you overlooked, the lessons you needed to learn, and the ways he's been guiding you all along. Alone time gives you the clarity to see God's fingerprints on your journey. Your relationship with God becomes personal, not just something you talk about in church or with friends. You start to experience his love undeniably. It's in the stillness that you realize he's been with you through every trial, every tear, and every triumph. Solitude makes his presence undeniable. This strengthened relationship changes the way you see yourself in the world. You stop worrying about what others think because you know who you are in Jodi's eyes. You stop fearing the future because you trust the one who holds it. Alone time isn't loneliness, intimacy with the Creator. When you come out of this season, your faith will be unshakable. You'll carry the confidence of someone who knows their love, guided and chosen by God. This relationship becomes the foundation for everything you do, and no amount of chaos or criticism can take it away. Elevation requires separation. Not everyone can handle the heights God is taking you to. When you're alone, it's because God is preparing you for a level that demands more focus, discipline, and faith. He separates you because he's about to elevate you. Think about an eagle that flies alone at high altitudes. God is calling you to rise above the noise, the distractions, and the mediocrity. But to do that, you have to leave some things and people behind. You can't soar if you're weighed down by what no longer serves you. This separation might feel like rejection, but it's redirection. God is steering you away from the things that will hinder your growth. He's clearing the path so you can move forward without obstacles. Separation is a setup for your next breakthrough. Elevation isn't easy. It requires sacrifice and discipline. God uses this time to refine you, to prepare you for the responsibilities that come with the blessings he's about to release. He's molding your character, strengthening your faith, and sharpening your vision. This process cannot be rushed. The people you're leaving behind might not understand your journey. They may question your decisions or try to pull you back. But remember, they're not called to your destiny. God separates you because your purpose is unique, and not everyone is meant to walk that path with you. When God elevates you, it's not just for your benefit. It's so you can be a light to others, a testimony of his goodness and faithfulness. But to lead, you must first be led. That's why this season of separation is so crucial. It's where God teaches you to depend fully on him. As you rise, you'll start to see why the separation was necessary. The higher you go, the clearer the view becomes. You'll look back and realize that every person, every situation, and every moment of solitude was part of God's plan to take you to greater heights. When God sets you apart, he's clearing your sight so you can focus on what truly matters. In the noise of daily life, it's easy to lose track of your purpose and get distracted by things that don't serve you. Solitude brings clarity, allowing you to see the bigger picture God has planned for you. Sometimes we can't see what's right in front of us because we're too consumed by others' opinions, expectations, and judgments. Alone time removes all that interference. It's just you and God, and that's when you start to see the path he's laid out. It's not blurred by confusion, it's illuminated by faith. God doesn't want you to live your life aimlessly. He wants you to walk on purpose. But to do that, you need to understand where you're going and why. Solitude is where God gives you that insight. He begins to reveal the dreams he's placed in your heart and the steps you need to take to bring them to life. Vision requires focus. When you're constantly surrounded by people and their agendas, your dreams can take a backseat. Being alone gives you the time to reconnect with your goals and realign with G.O.D's plan. It's a chance to tune out the distractions and zero in on what truly matters. You'll notice that as your vision becomes clearer, your priorities begin to shift. The things that once seemed so important, approval, comfort, convenience, start to fade. Instead, you're driven by purpose, passion, and the calling God has placed on your life. Solitude sharpens not only your vision, but also your determination. This clarity also gives you the strength to make tough decisions. You'll find it easier to say no to what doesn't align with your vision, even if it's uncomfortable. God gives you the discernment to recognize opportunities that will propel you forward and avoid distractions that will hold you back. As your vision sharpens, you'll start to see possibilities you never noticed before. Doors will open, connections will form, and paths will clear. God doesn't give you a vision without giving you the tools to achieve it. Alone time is when you discover those tools and learn how to use them. Sometimes being alone isn't just about growth, it's about protection. God sees, he can't see, hears conversations you weren't part of, and knows the hearts of people you trust. When he isolates you, it's often because he's shielding you from harm you didn't even know existed. You might feel hurt or confused when certain people leave your life, but God knows their intentions better than you do. He's removing what's toxic, what's draining you, and what's holding you back. That isolation isn't rejection, it's divine protection. Think about the times you've ignored red flags or settled for less than you deserved. God won't let you stay in situations that jeopardize your purpose. He'll remove people and circumstances, even if it feels painful, because his plan for you is too important to be compromised. When you're alone, it's easier to see who's really for you and who isn't. God reveals the true nature of those around you when you no longer have the noise of constant interaction. It's in this solitude that you gain the discernment to recognize genuine relationships from those built on convenience. Isolation is also a time for healing. When you're constantly surrounded by others, you often suppress your pain to keep up appearances. Alone time gives you the space to process, to feel, and to let God mend what's been broken. It's not a punishment, it's a prescription for your soul. Through isolation, God strengthens your boundaries. He teaches you that not everyone deserves access to your energy, your time, or your heart. You start to value yourself in a way that demands respect, not through arrogance, but through understanding your worth in him. When the season of isolation ends, you'll look back and thank God for the people he removed, the situations he blocked, and the harm he protected you from. His wisdom is infinite, and his protection is intentional. What feels like a loss now is the foundation for your future. Creativity thrives in solitude. When you're constantly surrounded by people, your mind is filled with their voices, opinions, and ideas. Alone time gives you the mental space to explore your thoughts and unlock the creativity God has placed within you. In the quiet, you start to notice the little things, the way the world moves, the beauty in the mundane and the inspiration in everyday moments. These observations become the seeds of creativity. God uses this time to awaken your imagination and ignite your passion for creating. You'll find that the ideas you come up with during this season are different, deeper, more meaningful, and aligned with your purpose. That's because they're not influenced by the noise of the world. They're born from a place of authenticity and guided by G.O.D's hand. God didn't create you to simply exist. He created you to contribute. Your creativity is a gift meant to bless others, but you can't tap into it if you're constantly distracted. Solitude is where you find the freedom to dream, to experiment, and to create without judgment. When you embrace this creative flow, you'll start to see possibilities where others see problems. You'll find solutions, develop ideas, and bring something unique into the world. God uses this time to show you that your creativity is not just a talent, it's a tool for fulfilling your purpose. Creativity also brings joy. It reminds you that life isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. Alone time allows you to reconnect with the things that make you feel alive, whether it's writing, painting, designing, or dreaming up new possibilities. God wants you to experience the joy of creation. As you unlock your creativity, you'll begin to see how it ties into your calling. The ideas you develop in solitude aren't just for you. They're meant to inspire, uplift, and impact the world around you. God is preparing you to use your creativity in ways that will leave a lasting legacy. When you're alone, there's no one to turn to but God. And that's exactly what He wants your full, undivided attention. It's in these moments of solitude that your relationship with Him grows stronger and more personal. You begin to realize that He's not just a distant figure, He's your closest companion. In the stillness, you can hear His voice more clearly. The distractions of life fade away, and you're left with His presence and His guidance. God speaks in whispers. And when you're surrounded by noise, it's easy to miss what He's trying to tell you. Solitude gives you the quiet you need to truly listen. This is the time to pour out your heart to Him. Share your fears, your doubts, your dreams, and your desires. God isn't just listening, He's answering. In these private moments, He gives you peace, wisdom, and reassurance that you're on the right path. You'll start to notice that as your connection with God strengthens, your faith becomes unshakable. You're no longer swayed by the opinions of others or the chaos around you. You stand firm, knowing that God is with you and that His plans for you are good. When you prioritize your relationship with God, everything else begins to fall into place. He gives you the strength to face challenges, the clarity to make decisions, and the courage to pursue your purpose. This season of solitude isn't about loneliness, it's about communion with the Creator. As you spend more time with God, you begin to see yourself through His eyes. You'll understand your worth, your purpose, and your potential in a way you never did before. He reveals the truth about who you are and what you're capable of, and that truth sets you free. Your relationship with God becomes the foundation for everything else in your life. It's not just a part of your journey, it's the source of your strength, your peace, and your direction. Alone time is where that foundation is built and fortified, preparing you for what's to come. When God sets you apart, it's often because He's preparing you for something bigger than what you're currently handling. Growth requires space, and solitude is where God expands your capacity to take on greater responsibilities and fulfill your calling. Think of it like training. Before you can lift heavy weights, you need to build your strength. Alone time is when God strengthens your character, your resolve, and your abilities. He's not just preparing you for the blessings, He's preparing you to handle them with grace and wisdom. This season is about learning and refining. You'll discover new skills, develop better habits, and gain the knowledge you need for the next level. God isn't rushing the process because He knows that true preparation takes time. He's equipping you for the challenges ahead so you can succeed without being overwhelmed. As you grow, you'll notice that your perspective starts to change. You're no longer focused on short-term gains or instant gratification. Instead, you're building a foundation for lasting success. God teaches you patience and perseverance, qualities that are essential for handling greater responsibilities. In solitude, you also learn to rely on yourself and on God. You're not looking to others for validation or support. You're building your strength and confidence. This independence is crucial because when the time comes, you'll need to stand firm and lead with conviction. God is also shaping your heart during this time. He's teaching you compassion, humility, and gratitude so that when you step into your next season, you'll use your blessings to serve others and glorify Him. This isn't just about personal gain. It's about making a positive impact on the world around you. When the time is right, God will reveal the responsibilities He's been preparing you for. And when that moment comes, you'll be ready not because you rushed the process, but because you embraced the solitude and allowed God to do His work in you. Strength isn't built in comfort or convenience. It's built in the moments when you're alone facing challenges head on. God allows these seasons of solitude because He knows they'll make you stronger, more resilient, and more capable of fulfilling your purpose. When you're alone, you have no choice but to confront your fears, your insecurities, and your weaknesses. It's not easy, but it's necessary. This is where you learn to trust God completely and rely on His strength instead of your own. Every challenge you face in solitude is an opportunity to grow. It's a chance to prove to yourself and God that you're ready for the next step. The lessons you learn in these moments aren't just for the present, they're tools you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. Solitude teaches you resilience. You learn to pick yourself up when you fall, to keep going when it's hard, and to trust that God has a plan even when you can't see it. This strength isn't just physical or emotional, it's spiritual. It's the kind of strength that can't be shaken by circumstances. As you grow stronger, you'll start to notice that the things that used to intimidate you no longer have power over you. You're no longer afraid of failure, rejection, or uncertainty because you face them all and come out stronger. This is the kind of confidence that can only come from experience. This season of solitude isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving, it's about becoming the person God created you to be: strong, fearless, and unwavering in your faith. Every challenge, every setback, and every moment of doubt is part of the process of building that strength. When you emerge from this season, you won't just be stronger, you'll be unshakable. You'll be ready to face whatever comes next with the confidence that comes from knowing that you've been tested, refined, and prepared by God Himself. So don't fight the isolation. Embrace it. Thank God for it. It's not a curse, it's a blessing. He's separating you so He can elevate you. He's not leaving you alone. He's preparing you for greatness. Trust the process, trust His plan, and watch how your life transforms.